Hello everyone, I think we might be back. I realize the issue may have been down to OBS, so apologies. What I've done is I've created a whole new stream, just labeled it part 2, but we'll finish the rest of the content in this second stream. So there's going to be 2 streams out on the channel. When it comes, I think I should be able to manage the podcast and audio and stuff like that. So look, it's working now. For anyone listening on audio at this point in time, I am talking to no one. There is no one watching it. There's no chat or anything like that. But I'm just going to go through my stuff, and if people join in and have questions, that's great. Otherwise, this will just effectively be a stream that turns into a quasi video. But yeah, I talked a little bit about best matchups, but I think you can kind of read that on paper. But no surprises. I think the best matchups are Manly versus the Tigers this week, and then it was Melbourne, Roosters, Bulldogs, Penrith, and Broncos. I think they've all got the best statistical, but also just eye test wise best matchups this week. So I think that's kind of the priority listing I'd be trying to have as well with your players in terms of sit v starts. And yeah, Manly versus Tigers seems to be the obvious one. In terms of hookers, so I know a few people were looking at hookers this week, given that Reece Robson and Connor Watson are both out. I think if you're looking for your best option for the run home, going under the radar is Jacob Little. He's got like a 3-round average of 73. I think a 5-round average of the 70s. He's got a 2% ownership in the top 5%, and versing the Sharks, Parramatta, and Canberra. All of those teams, like Parramatta and Canberra, actually don't fare that badly in terms of stats wise, conceding points to opposition hookers. So I think Little could actually be a pretty good shout. Otherwise, I really like. For a 1 week matchup, Reed Miney on paper numbers wise does look it, but to be honest, I probably can't recommend Reed Miney just because of the 3-round average of 31. He's been pretty poor from a SuperCoach point of view. I think Jacob Little is probably one for the rest of the season. And if you're not concerned, and if you want to get someone who won't get a rest for the rest of the season, Harry Grant is probably an option. But look, he's got a potential for arresting, but Dolphins at home is a really good matchup. I think if you've got the ability to cop some, just 1 week, if you're able to cop not having a hooker for 1 week, then Grant might be the one to trade in. Otherwise, I think Jacob Little's probably the option. Coruscant's got the bye next week, which isn't great. Who else is there? Damien Cook's got a pretty tough run with Penrith and the Roosters in round 26-27, and Reed Miney has not been performing very well. Got a few people in the chat, which is nice to see. 18 viewers. Yeah, apologies, guys. As I mentioned, I'm just going to be probably just going through everything as much as I can, just because I appreciate the last stream just completely died on me. I realized it wasn't YouTube or my internet. It started off with my internet, but then OBS just completely, you know what? It just cracked itself. So I had to restart it and everything, but we're back up and running. So we'll cover the rest of the stuff like captaincy and sit v starts and whatnot. So on reserves, so this is kind of what I was doing. This is what I was looking at for my own team. So just kind of looking at my fringe players, and if I had to rank, what about Robson? Look, Robson, the only reason I've not put Robson there is that he's not playing this week. But I mean, if you need to trade to a hooker, you're not trading him in this week. If you can get him, next week we can reassess and maybe you can look to trade him in at that point. But him and Connor Watson are not really relevant for this week, obviously, given that they're out. I'm assuming that if people need to make a trade at hooker, they're trading one of those two. Otherwise, ideally, if you just want someone who's got the best matchup for this week, probably Harry Grant, and then maybe you can cover Connor Watson and Reece Robson, and then maybe you've just got a decision then on maybe you end up with 2 gun hookers, and then you just have to play one of them for the rest of the season. For reserves, so I've looked at, again, I touched a little bit on best matchups and things. So going to try to tackle some of the more popular sit v starts. I know one that a lot of people, myself included, is thinking about is Jaden Campbell and Lockie Galvin at your 5'8" spot. So on paper, they both have pretty tough matchups. I'd say Campbell's is a little bit tougher with the Roosters, but at least it's at home and he's goal kicking. So part of me, like Galvin has been really, really good over the last few weeks, but he has benefited from playing some easier opposition. So, if you look at his recent scores, 85, 77, 82, 41, 104. That was against Rabbitohs, Knights, Cowboys, Warriors, and Rabbitohs again. If you look when he was versing tougher opposition, Sharks 32, Melbourne 63, Roosters 59. So not bad scores, but I do think that he's more prone to having a lower score in him when he's versing a slightly tougher opposition. Jaden Campbell, at least with goal kicking, he's got a bit more of a floor, and I think the Roosters still do sometimes leak points on their day. So part of me is slightly leaning towards, again, just chasing the guy who might have the higher upside. Maybe it's Jaden Campbell. I think matchup-wise, Galvin probably has got a slightly better matchup on paper. So yeah, at the moment, sit v start-wise, I'm leaning Galvin, just because I think he's got a slightly better matchup on paper. He's got a pretty good floor, even though Campbell's goal kicking. Galvin, he's safe for like generally a 50, even sometimes in those tougher matchups. But that one's a very close one. I might have to reevaluate on that one. Britton Nikora, I know Trindle is back, and that is generally good for Nikora, but against the Dragons, they haven't been that bad at defending opposition second rowers. So Nikora is also someone I've considered potentially sitting out of my 17 this week, and I might even play someone like a Dylan Brown against the Broncos ahead of Nikora. That's one particular sit v star that I'm also looking at potentially doing. Other ones in your center wing, Casey McLean is a really good play this week in your centers if you can afford to. He could potentially be a play ahead of someone like a Kale Iro. So Iro's on paper got a matchup where the Dragons have been 14th at defending opposition center wings over the last 5 rounds, so pretty good statistically. So Casey McLean might have an argument to be a play above Kale Iro in your 17s this week. Same as also being played ahead of Mulatalo. I think Marzi is a really good play this week versus the Rabbitohs. Same with Eli Katoa. The other kind of sit v start that I was dabbling with was Josh Curran, Samuel Lafainu, because that's the one that I myself am looking at. So at the moment, I'm still thinking of playing Curran over Samuel Lafainu. I know Curran's got this shoulder issue, but even Curran with the shoulder issue has still pumped out like 46 and like I think a 55 the week before. Samuel Lafainu, his base is dropping off over the last couple of weeks, like 25 and 55 the week before that, but that 55 came with a try assist. I feel like Josh Curran still feels safer to play than Samuel Lafainu, even with a busted shoulder. So I'm probably still leaning towards playing Curran over Fainu. If you've got Terrell May and Curran and you're dabbling between one of those, one thing I would say with Terrell May is that with Jared Weir-Hargraves back, I do feel like the minutes of Terrell May is going to be a little bit impacted. So I would probably, again, still prefer to play Josh Curran. I think he's a tough bugger. Like, I think he's just going to get through it. And he'll still manage to at least pump out like a 45 to 50. So Brayley's asking, Katoa, Nikora, Olaquatu for Fifita Crichton. Who am I sitting of them? If I had to sit, it'd probably be Nikora. I think Olaquatu versus the Tigers, you just can't really sit him. I think Angus versus Titans, you can't sit him. Katoa versus Dolphins, you can't sit him. And then I just feel like sitting for Fifita just feels like even though it's the Roosters, I just feel like he's got such a safe floor. He just is someone that I just would never want to be sitting. So Nikora is the one that naturally feels like the last one to be dropped out there. Campbell, in your situation, To'o or Mazu, or sit Nikora and play both. I would actually be really tempted to just sit Nikora and then play both of To'o and Mazu. I think I'd prefer both of those this week. It's tough to say Nikora is like an easy sit candidate, but like you have to sit someone, and I think Dragons, local derby, could be a bit of a tougher matchup. He scored 74 last week, but that did require getting a try. So if you take away the 17 points from that one, we're looking at a score at around like the high 50s, which is solid, but you're probably trying to chase a little bit higher ceiling than that maybe at this point of the year. All right, we'll quickly touch on captaincy. Look, probably not too complicated this week. I think if you're a Tom Trbojevic owner, he is an immediate vice captain or captaincy shout. Depending on your AE situation, you could look to VC Turbo and then captain maybe a halfback, maybe like a Sam Walker if you trade Sam Walker in this week. Otherwise, I'd be pretty happy just to go straight C on Turbo this week because, look, over the last 5 rounds, over the entire season, West Tigers is a very good matchup for an opposition fullback. So I think Turbo is an easy captaincy shout. And I think if I own Turbo, I'd probably just straight captain him. The way I'm leaning is trading in Cherry Evans, and I might VC Cherry Evans or Garrick, but I'll definitely put a VC on one of those two. It'll definitely be a Manly player. And then I'll probably default to captaincy on Teddy. I just think Titans is a good matchup, and I think Teddy's just been in such good form. Like, I think he's a very safe captaincy option. Other pod options I noted were Karaz, but Warriors away does feel like maybe it's not as easy of a matchup as it does seem on paper. Edwards, I think, is a great pod. Just goal kicking versus the Raiders. I think he's a really good shout, as is Kalen Ponga. But Rabbitohs have actually been a bit more improved in defending points to opposition fullbacks in the last few rounds. So I think Ponga versus, say, Teddy, I'm leaning a little bit towards Tedesco, despite Teddy not having goal kicking. But yeah, Turbo feels like the really obvious shout for this week. If you're looking for your pod options in head-to-heads, Garrick, Cherry Evans stand out. Ponga is probably going to be a little bit lower captain this week as well. And if you're going Hail Mary, someone like Dylan Edwards, I really, really like. Or you can chance it as well on even like Sam Walker. At the moment, I'm thinking of going VC, Garrick, or Cherry Evans, and Captaincy Tedesco. All right, I'm just going to quickly get to my team just to appreciate that I've had to do like a disjointed 2-stream situation here. But guys, look, I know it's not ideal. Oopsie, what have I done? Here we go. Alrighty. So here's my team as it currently stands. I've got 5 trades in the bank. So definitely making 2 this week. I think I've kind of spoken myself into getting Cherry Evans just about over Sam Walker, and I could flip to Sam Walker again next week. But Cherry Evans is what I'm leaning towards at the moment, and I'll probably VC him or Garrick, as I mentioned. Now I'm a little bit lost on what trade to do for the second one. So I've got pretty good depth. Like I've got Karaz, Dom Young, Garrick, and Marzu, and then Iro or McLean. They both feel like they all feel really good. Teddy or Ponga, I can do Ponga to Turbo. So I could actually make that trade, and then I still have 3 trades left. And then next week, I could just go Turbo straight back to KP and then sit myself with 2 trades. So Ponga to Turbo is an option, but part of me does feel like that's maybe a little bit of a waste, and I might not do it. I don't really think I need to make a trade in second row. I think that's fine. Also, I do want to keep a trade actually up my sleeve, just in case Harry Grant does get a rest. I will need backup hooker. So it's still, I mean, I could do a trade of Simkin to like a Connor Watson. Well, there's no point getting Connor Watson in this week. He's out this week, but potentially next week, that's maybe a trade that I do. So yeah, I'm a little bit lost on what to do on the second trade. I like getting someone like a Lomax potentially, like maybe, I mean, I've even dabbled with going like Val Holmes to Lomax and then get Val in back next week, but Val does have a tough last 2. So yeah, I'm actually a little bit lost on what to do on the second trade. So anyone who's watching, if you've got any ideas, let me know. It could involve some kind of getting in Turbo and just maybe going straight captain Turbo. That could be the more aggressive play. Not happy with my 5-8 situation. So what I could actually, you know what? This is not a bad shout. So I could sell Jaden Campbell. I've literally just thought about this. I could sell Jaden Campbell. And then actually, you know what? This actually could be the play. I could sell Jaden Campbell, who, look, he's got Roosters this week, then Knights, and then Penrith. Like, it's a pretty tough run. I believe his break, not that we're paying too much attention to break evens, but I want to keep Galvin for round 27 versus Parramatta. So I could switch Dillbags down to my 5-8. I can play Dillbags ahead of Galvin this week and not have to worry about reserves there. I can just trade Sam Walker in this week as well. I can actually get both of Sam Walker and Cherry Evans. I can actually get even like a Jerome Luai as well if I fancied it. He actually might be offering a bit more coverage to flip in and out with Dylan Brown. But yeah, thinking about it now, I actually could just do Jaden Campbell to Sam Walker this week and Cleary to Cherry Evans. Get the 2 best ones that I thought. And then next week what I could do is maybe I could go Cherry Evans. I don't even have to play Cherry Evans week in, week out. Sam Walker can just be my number 1. And I can go Cherry Evans maybe out for like a Luai next week if he looks really good. Or just leave it at that. So yeah, those actually could potentially be my 2 trades for this week. And if I did those 2 trades, so yeah, Cleary and Campbell to Cherry Evans and Sam Walker, what I'd do then is I would sit Galvin at that point. I would play Dillbags ahead of I'd play Dillbags ahead of Galvin. I would definitely be playing Sam Walker somewhere in my setup. So I'd probably take the reserve off Kale Iro. Doesn't feel great. And then I could take the reserve off Nickera and put it on Iro or McLean. So I'd be making a last minute decision basically on my final reserve would either be McLean, Iro, or Britton Nikora. So I just have to make a decision on that. But I like that actually this week. I get 2 of the halfbacks that I actually do want. Don't really feel like I need to play Jaden Campbell most weeks. Like next week, Galvin's got the bye, but Dylan Brown's got the Dragons, which is completely fine to have him in that matchup. So I can play Dylan Brown actually out for the rest of the season. So yeah, that actually could be how I do what my 2 trades are. Still leaves me with 3 trades for next week. I have 170k in the bank. So next week I can easily do let's assume Harry Grant gets a rest. I can go Harry Grant to Connor Watson, and that's it. And leaves me 2 trades still for the final week. So yeah, that could be what I'm doing. Also, if you guys, let me know if you guys can actually see my team. I should have changed it so that you guys can, but let me know if you actually can't. All right, look, I'll see if I can take a couple of questions, although actually, you know what? I'll take the couple of questions that we've got, and then I'll probably wrap it up just because, yeah, I'm a bit rattled from the whole stream situation. Match the head-to-head opponent, Walker and Carraz, or get Cherry Evans and Lomax to be different. Actually, that's, you know what, actually thinking about that with my money situation next week. Next week, Sharks play, who do they play next week? Because I feel like I can skip Lomax this week versus the Sharks. I think versus the Warriors. Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. Next week, if there is mass restings, I could potentially get Lomax in my center wing. That could be another trade for me next week. But anyway, see how we go. Match opponent Walker and Carraz, or get Cherry Evans and Lomax. I would actually chance Aaron to go different and get Cherry Evans and Lomax. I think those are 2 really good options that are still, yeah, they differentiate you, but they're both high ceiling players as well. 4 trades left: Cleary to Cherry Evans and Cotter to Crichton. It'll put me in a really good spot to win head-to-head semis and hopefully push me into top 6k with lots of money in the bank. Yeah, Brayley, I think those are very, very solid trades. Can't complain with that. Cotter's fine. Angus has been a little bit down in the last couple of weeks, but I do think he's still got one big game in him. I just don't see Cotter quite getting there. So yeah, I'd actually very happily do those 2 trades. Last question I'll take before we wrap it up. Who do I start out of Marnie or Jaden Brayley? I believe Brayley got 80 minutes last week and he scored 68 points, 58 points in base. Good matchup versus the Rabbitohs. I'd actually favour him, I think, over Reed Miney. Reed Miney's been pretty disappointing over the last 5 weeks. So yeah, Jaden Brayley, I think Connor, that's where I'd be leaning. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Apologies again for all the technical issues. But look, if you watch the first stream and then you watch this one, it should cover everything that I wanted to cover for this week. So yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed it. Yeah, again, apologies for the technical issues, but what can we do about it? Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Do give this short abridged stream a like as well if you did enjoy it and if you just wanted to see my team, because we've got it. But yeah, thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.